We're in for a real treat, and you guys can thank me later for arranging his visit to Charlotte because you're going to really enjoy him. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get our contest started. Are you guys ready? Okay, so our first contestant up tonight, is everybody ready? All the contestants, you guys ready? All right, awesome. So our first contestant tonight is the greatest chef on the mountainside. He participates in the CF Foundation's Extreme Hike, which is a 30-mile, one-day hike on the Appalachian Trail. You did not hear me wrong, that's actually what it is. Which I find a hilarious concept all on its own. But this guy takes it to the next level. He always packs a cooking stove and ingredients, and he makes sure that he's whipping up meals so that everybody is well fed as all the miles go by. Do we have some fellow hikers in the room supporting tonight? The hikers travel in packs because they're less likely to get eaten by a bear that way. So we're glad to have you guys here. So welcome to the stage, the very funny Rob Anderson.
So, I grew up in the 90s. All right, me too. And, I loved, and still love, gangsta rap. Eazy-E, NWA, the Ghetto Boys. Of course you can't forget Biggie. That is what I'm talking about. And I listen to it all the time. My parents and my neighbors love me. And during that time, what inevitably happens whenever you're introduced to a culture that I know surprises you, probably isn't my own, is that you start to bring it into your everyday life. Now, I wasn't smoking lined Optimos or nickel plating any of my nines, but I was introducing a lot of the language that I heard into my vocabulary. Now, I learned a lot of the four-letter words when I was, 5, 6, 7, 8, like the rest of us. But some of the more creative things I brought in once I heard the gangsta rap. So, my friends became my homies. My car became my ride, obviously. My house was my crib. And, I really, really, really started to see this introduction into my vocabulary stretch further and further and further. And the problem is that it's stuck. Now, I am a sadist in a way. Probably not in the way you think. Sorry, ladies. But I'm a sadist in the way that I love to be socially inappropriate. For those of you who know me, there's my mom nodding. One of my very favorite things is to get that look. Say something that is completely inappropriate and then get the look back. And, I had this sort of thug background, as you can see. And I also sort of look like I may or may not be leaving the gay bar late for a cocaine match at the country club. That combined with my whole voice thing, makes Paul Ryan look more multicultural. But regardless, I held on to it. And, my inner West Side connection and my Republican National Convention being held in South Florida came together and decided to capitalize on the whole situation. And I figured out that I could be kind of a dick and get off on it in public by using these terms. So the first thing that I did was I had a boss, one of my favorite bosses, super cool dude. His name was TJ. And I used to call him Tits Johnson, the OG original gangster, and I only called him that in front of our executive team just to see the look on his face. And I was literally willing to sacrifice my entire career to see this man's look of disgust. And it worked. It worked. It was magical. And to this day, I don't work with him anymore, you know. But to this day, I still call him. I'm like, yo, Tits Johnson, what's going on? He's like, please stop fucking calling me. And, you know, another situation, I was actually, I was at the gun range. And I was waiting in line for a lane to go and shoot my rifle, believe it or not. And I saw my buddy Larry and his dad standing there. And, you know, I walked up to Larry, and his dad kind of gave me a funny look. And I'm like, what's up with Larry's dad? And then I realized I was wearing this exact outfit. And I slapped Larry on the back, and I'm like, what's up, Big Daddy? And I saw Larry's dad's heart break before my eyes. It was fabulous. Now, as much as I love being a douchebag, and as much as I love gangsta rap, you know, you really can't get into gangsta rap the way that I got into gangsta rap without a bumpin' stereo at the introduction. My mom, oh my God. That's what she just said. I saw it. Thanks, Mom. I had, my bumpin' stereo was a 1992 Jeep Cherokee. Mm-hmm. Ladies, stay right there. After. And it was absolutely freaking amazing. And I'll tell you, you know, I had such a good time learning all these lyrics and trolling everybody that I knew with all my rap lingo. And I also really fell in love with Jeeps in the process. So I haven't only injected the thug life into my regular life, but I've also injected the Jeep life into my regular life. Uh-oh, are there Jeep fans out there? So you guys have a lot of money you're willing to spend on broken-ass vehicles. Okay. So anywho, you know, when I was a teenager and I was driving my Jeep and I loved that thing, I said, you know, one day when I'm successful, I'm gonna restore an old Jeep from the ground up. I think that'd be a good idea. Fast forward 15 years later, I'm not successful, but I did it anyway. Much to the behest of my wonderful wife, I spent way too much money restoring an old Jeep. Took us a year, and it is exactly what you think it would be. Completely obnoxious. It's one of these cars that when you're driving by, you look at it and you go, all right, this dude is either A, completely incapable of making reasonable decisions, B, is having a midlife crisis, or C, has a microscopic penis. And I can assure you that at least 2 of the 3 of those answers are absolutely true. Now, I wouldn't be a good douchebag if I didn't get a vanity license plate. And, you know, I thought long and hard about this vanity license plate. I'm like, I want something that says, I really, 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 really crave attention. And I kind of suck, but I'm also really creative and clever. I'm like a hooker with a master's degree. And, you know, I remember back in the day, some friends of mine who were big into the SCCA racing, you know, the little rice burners, the Civics would get really loud. Yeah. They used to call the old cars analog. So I'm like, huh. So the Jeep that I restored was in 1981, and it doesn't have any computerized anything on it. And I thought, analog 81. That is clever. I will look very smart, and I will get all the attention that I fucking deserve. And so, I went to the DMV's website. I quickly typed it in. I looked at a mock-up of it. It was as beautiful as I thought it would be. I paid my $28 fee of douchery, and I was done. They told me it'd be there within 8 weeks. I could not contain myself. I was bouncing out of my seat at every moment. Me and the family, I've got 2 kids, so this is even worse. So me and the family are out in the yard and hanging out doing family stuff, trying to pretend like we're wholesome. And, my wife's standing in front of the Jeep that she just gave up her new tits for. And my mailman pulls up. And he's like, hey, I think somebody's really been looking forward to this. And I'm like, what? And he parks. My mailman rarely parks. I think he's parked maybe twice. Once when he had to bring dog food up to the house in the rain, and once when he came back with a gun after having to bring dog food up to the house in the rain. So he parks, and I'm like, damn, this must be a serious moment. Now, if you don't know, the North Carolina DMV, when they ship you one of these douchey license plates, there's a window on the front. So you can see all of your douchebaggery in it, ready to rock and roll. And so he holds it up, and he says, I know you're excited to see this. And what happened was immediately I realized that karma came back to bite me. I wasn't going to be driving the analog 81. I was now the anal OG.